I found out my parents left everything to my brother in their will, and it broke something inside me. Not because I wanted their money, or their house, or the old family cabin up in the mountains. No, it was the betrayal. The cold, hard proof that after 32 years of bending over backward for them, I was worth less than Jake. My little brother, who never showed up when they needed him, who partied through his 20s while I paid their bills, fixed their roof, drove Mom to her chemo appointments. I was the one who held their hands through every crisis, but in the end, they chose him. I'll never forget the day I found out. It was a Tuesday, gray and rainy, the kind of day that makes you feel heavy before you even get out of bed. I was at their house, like always, sorting through a pile of their mail because Dad's arthritis made it hard for him to open envelopes. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I was just trying to help, like I'd done 1,000 times before. But there it was, tucked between a utility bill and a coupon for pizza, a letter from their lawyer. The envelope was already torn open, so I glanced at it, thinking it was something routine, maybe about their property taxes. Instead, it was a copy of their updated will. To Jacob Michael Carter, we bequeath our entire estate, including all real property, financial assets, and personal belongings. My name, Ethan James Carter, wasn't even mentioned, not a single word. I stood there in their cramped little kitchen, the one with the chipped yellow cabinets and the coffee maker that always smelled faintly burnt, and I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. My hands shook as I read it again, thinking maybe I'd misunderstood. But no, it was clear as day. They'd rewritten their will 6 months ago, right around the time Jake had come back to town after years of barely calling. He'd shown up with his new fiancée, all charm and promises, and suddenly he was the golden child again. Meanwhile, I was still the one driving Dad to physical therapy, still the one Venmoing them money for their prescriptions, when their Social Security checks didn't stretch far enough. I didn't confront them that day. I couldn't. My throat was so tight I could barely breathe, let alone speak. I just folded the letter back up, slipped it into the envelope, and left the pile of mail on the counter. I mumbled something about needing to get to work and walked out. Mom called after me, "Ethan, you staying for dinner?" Like nothing had happened, like my whole world hadn't just cracked in half. I didn't answer. I got in my truck, drove to the empty lot behind the old high school, and sat there for 2 hours, staring at the rain streaking down my windshield. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but the hurt was too deep for tears. It was like a knife lodged in my chest, twisting every time I thought about that letter. For days, I couldn't look at them. I ignored Mom's texts, asking if I could swing by to fix the leaky faucet. I didn't answer Dad's voicemail about needing a ride to the hardware store. I just stopped calling, stopped helping, stopped being their person. It wasn't out of spite, not at first. It was survival. I was drowning in this feeling that I'd never been enough for them, that all the years I'd made, working overtime to cover their bills, missing my own life to manage theirs, meant nothing. If they didn't value me enough to even mention me in their will, why should I keep breaking my back for them? The first week, it was radio silence. Mom and Dad didn't push. They probably thought I was just busy, maybe working extra shifts at the warehouse or caught up with my girlfriend, Sarah. Sarah noticed something was off, though. She kept asking why I was so quiet, why I wasn't eating. I didn't tell her about the will, not yet. I couldn't put it into words without feeling like I was whining, like I was some kid throwing a tantrum over not getting a bigger slice of pie. But Sarah knew me too well. One night, maybe 10 days after I found the letter, we were sitting on the couch in my tiny apartment, the TV droning in the background. She muted it, turned to me and said, "Ethan, talk to me. You're scaring me." So I told her. Everything. The will, the betrayal, the way it felt like my parents had erased me from their lives. I choked up halfway through, and Sarah just held me, her arms tight around me like she could keep me from falling apart. "You don't owe them anything," she whispered. "Not after this." That's when I decided to stick to my choice. I wasn't going to help anymore. No more paying their electric bill when they were short. No more dropping everything to drive across town because Mom's car wouldn't start. No more being their safety net. If they wanted to leave everything to Jake, then Jake could step up. He could be the one to deal with their endless needs, their constant emergencies. I was done. A month passed. It wasn't easy. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted, thinking it was Mom or Dad. But it was usually just Sarah checking in, or a coworker asking to swap shifts. I threw myself into work, picking up every overtime hour I could. The warehouse was grueling, endless pallets of heavy boxes, the constant beep of forklifts, the ache in my back that never went away, but it kept my mind busy. I didn't have to think about the will or the way Mom's voice used to sound when she'd thank me for helping out. I didn't have to picture Dad's proud smile when I'd fixed something around the house. I just stacked boxes, scanned barcodes, and counted down the hours until I could collapse into bed. Then, one morning, my phone lit up with a text from Mom. No greeting, no, how are you, no nothing. Just 3 words. The mortgage is due. I was sitting at my kitchen table, halfway through a bowl of cereal, and I just stared at the screen. The audacity of it hit me like a punch. After a month of me pulling back, after years of me carrying their financial weight, she didn't even bother with a hello, just a demand, like I was their personal ATM. My first instinct was to type back something angry, something like, "Why don't you ask Jake?" But I didn't. I took a deep breath, set my spoon down, and typed 2 words, "Not my problem." I hit send and turned my phone face down on the table. My heart was pounding, and my hands felt clammy. I'd never said no to them like that before. Never. Even when I was exhausted, even when I had to dip into my own savings to cover their bills, I'd always found a way to help. But not this time. This time, I meant it. The fallout came fast. Within an hour, Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. She left a long, rambling message, her voice sharp and accusing. "Ethan, I don't know what's gotten into you, but we're your parents. We need you. The bank's calling about the mortgage, and we don't have the money. You can't just abandon us like this." I listened to it twice, each word cutting deeper than the last. Abandon them? Me? The guy who'd been their crutch for years? I didn't call back. Dad tried next. His voicemail was quieter, sadder. "Son, we're in a bind. I know you're busy, but we're counting on you. Always have." That one hurt more. Dad and I had always been close, or at least I thought we were. He'd taught me how to change a tire, how to throw a curveball, how to keep going when life felt too heavy. But now, all I could think about was that will, his signature at the bottom, signing me out of their lives. Jake didn't reach out. Not a text, not a call, nothing. I wasn't surprised. He'd always been good at dodging responsibility. Growing up, he was the charming one, the one who could talk his way out of anything. I was the reliable one, the one who cleaned up his messes. When he crashed Mom's car at 17, I was the one who worked extra shifts to help pay for the repairs. When he dropped out of college and moved to California, I was the one who flew out to help him move back when he ran out of money. And now, he was the one they'd chosen to inherit everything. The next few weeks were a blur of guilt and anger. Mom kept texting, each message more desperate than the last. "Ethan, please, we're going to lose the house." "Your father's not sleeping. He's so stressed." "How can you do this to us?" I didn't respond, but every message felt like a weight on my chest. Sarah tried to keep me grounded, reminding me that I wasn't the bad guy here, that I'd given them enough. But it didn't feel that way. It felt like I was letting them down, like I was breaking some unspoken rule about family. One night, I broke down. I was alone in my apartment, scrolling through old photos on my phone, pictures of me and Dad fishing at the lake, Mom smiling at my high school graduation, the 3 of us at Christmas when I was a kid. I started sobbing, the kind of crying that shakes your whole body. I missed them, not the parents who'd written me out of their will, but the parents I'd grown up with, the ones who'd made me feel like I mattered. I wanted to call them, to fix everything, but then I remembered the will, and the anger came rushing back. I couldn't go back to being their doormat. I just couldn't. About 2 months after that first text, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. It was Mom's neighbor, Mrs. Larson, the sweet old lady who'd lived next door my whole life. Her voice was shaky. "Ethan, honey, I don't want to bother you, but I'm worried about your parents. The bank put a foreclosure notice on their door yesterday. Your mom's been crying nonstop, and your dad, he's not himself. I thought you should know." I thanked her and hung up, my mind racing. Foreclosure? It was real now. They were really going to lose the house I'd grown up in, the one with the creaky stairs and the backyard where Jake and I used to play catch. Part of me wanted to rush over, to write a check, to save them like I always had. But another part, the part that was still raw from their betrayal, held me back. I called Sarah instead. She listened while I poured it all out, the guilt, the anger, the fear that I was making a mistake I'd regret forever. "You can't fix their choices," she said softly. "They made this bed, Ethan, not you." The next day, I drove to their house. I didn't tell them I was coming. I just needed to see it for myself, to make it real. When I pulled up, the foreclosure notice was there, taped to the front door, bright yellow and impossible to miss. The lawn was overgrown, and the mailbox was stuffed with unopened letters. I knocked, and Mom opened the door. She looked older than I remembered, her eyes red and puffy. "Ethan," she whispered, like she couldn't believe I was there. We sat in the living room, the same one where we'd opened Christmas presents and watched old movies. Dad was in his recliner, staring at the floor. Nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, I said it. "I saw the will. You left everything to Jake." My voice cracked, but I kept going. "I've been here for you every single day, and you didn't even put my name in it." "Why?" Mom started crying, but Dad was the one who answered. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "We thought Jake needed it more. He's not like you, Ethan. You're strong. You've always been able to take care of yourself. Jake's different. He struggled, and we were afraid he'd end up with nothing if we didn't help him." I laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. It was bitter, hollow. "So you punished me for being responsible? For being the one who showed up?" Dad didn't answer. He just looked away, and that was worse than any excuse he could have given. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "We didn't mean to hurt you," she said. "We love you, Ethan. We thought you'd understand." "Understand what?" I snapped. "That I'm invisible to you? That I don't matter?" I stood up, my hands shaking. "I've paid your bills. I've fixed your house. I've put my life on hold for you. And you couldn't even talk to me about it. You just decided I was fine being left with nothing." They didn't have an answer. Not a real one. Mom kept crying, and Dad kept staring at the floor. I left without saying goodbye. I drove home, my chest so tight I could barely breathe. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and realized something. I wasn't just angry at them, I was angry at myself. For thinking I could earn their love by being the perfect son. For thinking that if I just worked hard enough, gave enough, they'd see me. The house went into foreclosure. They moved into a small apartment across town, one they could barely afford. Jake didn't step up, no surprise there. He sent them a few $100 once, then disappeared again, off to some new adventure with his fiancée. Mom called me a few times, asking for help with rent, but I didn't answer. I couldn't. Not because I didn't care, but because I was finally learning to care about myself. It's been a year now. I'm still with Sarah, and we're talking about getting married, maybe starting a family. I've saved up enough to put a down payment on a house, a small one, but ours. Work's still tough, but I'm good at it, and I've got a promotion coming. Life's moving forward, but there's still this hole where my parents used to be. I miss them, but I don't miss the version of myself I was with them, the guy who thought he had to earn their love. The last time I heard from Mom was a text, 3 months ago. "We're sorry, Ethan. We love you." I didn't reply, but I saved it. Maybe one day I'll call. Maybe one day we'll talk, really talk, about everything. But for now, I'm learning to let go, to stop carrying their weight, to stop trying to be enough for people who couldn't see I already was. If you're out there listening to this, and you're giving everything to someone who doesn't see you, hear me. You are enough. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to bleed for it. And sometimes, the hardest thing you'll ever do is walk away from the people you love to save yourself. But it's worth it. You're worth it.